the terrifying reality of exploring the world in 1500. You step onto the wooden deck. The air smells of wet pine and rotting hemp. You look back at the harbor one last time, knowing you will likely never see it again. The horizon ahead is completely blank. Will you survive the night? Today, you can cross the Atlantic Ocean in a matter of hours. You sit in a pressurized cabin, sipping a cold drink while watching a movie. A digital map tracks your progress down to the exact meter. Navigation is invisible. Safety is assumed. But 5 centuries ago, boarding a caravel was not a voyage. It was a prolonged, slow-motion gamble with agonizing death. The ocean was not a highway, but a vast, silent desert that swallowed fleets whole without leaving a trace. We know the brutal reality of these expeditions through the preserved logbook of Alvaro Vello, who sailed with Vasco da Gama, and the meticulous journals of Antonio Pigafetta during the Magellan circumnavigation. Maritime archaeologists like Dr. Eric Ryath have excavated wrecks from this era, revealing the true structural fragility of these tiny wooden vessels. The evidence paints a grim picture. Historians actively debate the exact mortality rates, but many estimate that over 60% of sailors who left European ports in the early age of discovery never returned. They did not die in glorious battles. They withered away in the dark. Imagine the absolute terror of the unknown docks. You are an ordinary laborer fleeing starvation on land. You sign a contract written in a language you can barely read. The gold promised by the crown sounds like a fortune, but the price you pay will be written in blood. The wood beneath your feet is fresh oak. The ropes are stiff and heavy. The air is thick with the cries of merchants and weeping families. Do you truly know what lies beyond the harbor walls? The anchors are raised with a slow, agonizing groan of iron. The wind catches the canvas. The coastline of your homeland begins to shrink into a faint, gray sliver. You watch the last church tower vanish below the waves. Your heart sinks into your chest. The modern mind cannot fathom this total severing of connection. There are no radios. There are no backup vessels. You are entirely, completely alone on a shifting blue wilderness. Would you have the courage to look forward? Let us look closer at your new home. A standard caravel is a tiny machine of wood and rope. It measures less than 90 feet from bow to stern. Within this narrow frame, 60 grown men must live, work, and sleep for months on end. There are no passenger cabins. There are no hammocks yet, as they have not been discovered in the Americas. You sleep directly on the bare deck planks. The wood is always damp. The salt crusts your skin until it burns. How can a man find rest in a vibrating chamber of noise? You share this suffocating space with livestock. Pigs grunt in the dark corners. Chickens squawk from wooden crates. Rats scurry across your face while you try to sleep. The insects are an absolute nightmare. Cockroaches by the millions infest every crack, every seam, and every clothing fold. They crawl into your ears. They chew on your fingernails. The stench becomes an active, physical entity. It is a mix of stale urine, animal dung, rotting timber, and unwashed human skin. Can you even breathe without gagging? The food is your first true descent into torment. Your entire universe revolves around a hard, dry block of wheat known as hardtack. It is baked twice, sometimes 3 times. To remove every drop of moisture, it becomes as hard as masonry. You must smash it with an iron hammer before you can even attempt to bite it. If you are careless, you will shatter your teeth on the first day. But dryness does not keep the invaders away. The dark holds are hot and humid. What is hiding inside your food? You lift the biscuit to the light of a single tallow candle. The surface is alive. Hundreds of white weevil larvae are tunneling through the flour. Black beetles crawl out of the center. The smell of insect excrement fills the dry bread. You learn a critical survival trick from the senior crew. You eat only in total darkness. You close your eyes and swallow quickly. You pretend the crunching sound is just salt. Would your stomach turn if you saw the truth? The water is even worse than the food. It is collected from city rivers before the voyage. It is stored in massive oak casks in the lower hold. Within 3 weeks of entering the tropical zones, the water begins to change. The heat causes bacteria to bloom rapidly. The clear liquid turns thick, green, and ropey with slime. It smells like a stagnant sewer canal. You hold your nose. As you tip the wooden cup back, the slime sticks to your throat. How long can a human body survive on poison? When the provisions fail entirely, absolute desperation takes over. The ship becomes a hunting ground. You watch your crewmates hunt the rats that run through the bilge. A single rat becomes a prized commodity, traded for high wages or extra clothes. The meat is stringy, oily, and foul, but it is fresh meat. If there are no rats left, you resort to the leather wrappings on the main yards. You drop the tough leather into the sea for days to soften it. You cook it over a small fire until it is chewable. Is this the price of empire? Then, the monster in your blood awakens. It begins with a strange, heavy tiredness in your knees. You find it difficult to climb the rigging. Your gums begin to itch, then swell, then turn a deep, dark purple. The flesh becomes as soft as a sponge, growing over your teeth until you can no longer close your mouth. Your breath smells of active decay. The teeth loosen in their sockets and fall out one by one into your hand. This is the horror of scurvy. What is happening to your internal organs? The disease is a slow disintegration of the human body. Scurvy is caused by a total lack of vitamin C, which prevents your body from synthesizing collagen. Without collagen, your body literally falls apart at the cellular level. Old scars from your childhood suddenly break open. Bones that fractured 20 years ago detach and become separate pieces again. Internal blood vessels burst under the skin, leaving huge black bruises across your legs. Your joints stiffen until you are forced to crawl like an animal. Who will help you when everyone is dying? The ship surgeon is entirely useless. He believes the illness is caused by bad air or melancholy. He applies hot iron to your swollen gums. He bleeds you with leeches, removing the very blood your body desperately needs. The decks become a makeshift hospital of screaming men. You listen to the low moans of your friends in the dark. Every morning, the bosun checks the deck for corpses. They tie a heavy stone to the feet of the dead and slide them over the side. Do you hear the splash? The psychological void is an absolute terror. You look out at the water day after day. The circle of the horizon never changes. You are moving at 5 knots, but it feels like you are perfectly stationary. The mind begins to play cruel tricks on the lonely mind. You start to see green fields in the white crests of the waves. You hear voices calling your name from the empty wind. The sheer monotony of the sea creates a unique madness. Will you jump into the blue to make it stop? The isolation breeds a toxic atmosphere below deck. Trust evaporates into the humid air. The crew divides into angry, silent factions. You watch the captain with suspicious eyes. Does he truly know the way? The logbooks of Ferdinand Magellan detail the constant threat of mutiny on the high seas. Officers whisper in the dark, clutching their daggers. A single wrong word can spark a bloody execution on the quarterdeck. The ocean is dangerous, but your fellow man is deadlier. Whom can you trust? You look at the navigation tools and feel a deep sense of dread. The captain stands on the deck with the heavy brass astrolabe. He tries to measure the height of the North Star above the horizon. The ship rolls violently on a swell. The instrument slips. The calculation is off by 300 miles. There is no way to measure your horizontal position on the globe. You are guessing your location based on time and speed. Is it possible to navigate an ocean by memory alone? The method is called dead reckoning. You throw a wooden log attached to a knotted rope into the sea. You count the knots that pass through your fingers, while an hourglass drains its sand. This tells you how fast the ship is moving through the water, but it does not tell you if an ocean current is pushing you backward. It does not account for the drift of the wind. Your entire map is a beautiful lie drawn by artists in Lisbon. Are you sailing toward an island or a hidden reef? The environment itself is a shifting weapon. The temperature rises as you approach the equator. The wood of the ship begins to shrink under the intense heat. The tar that seals the seams melts and drips down the side like black tears. The air becomes completely still. The sails hang limp and useless from the wooden yards. You have entered the doldrums, the most feared region on the planet. The ship stops dead in the water. How long will the water last? The stillness is more terrifying than any storm. The ocean becomes a giant mirror, reflecting a sky without clouds. The heat inside the lower decks rises to over 100 degrees. The air is stagnant and heavy. The water casks dry up completely. You watch your friends lick the dew off the iron rails in the early morning. Some drink the salt water from the ocean in their madness, accelerating their death. The silence is a physical weight pressing down on your chest. Will the wind ever blow again? When the wind does return, it often comes as a monster. The sky turns the color of a bruised eye. The barometer falls rapidly, though you have no tool to see it. A sudden wall of black clouds rushes across the ocean. The bosun blows his whistle, screaming for the crew to lower the sails. The wind hits the ship like a physical blow, tilting the caravel onto its beam ends. The sea pours over the side. Are you about to flip upside down? You are trapped in a washing machine of wood and water. The waves rise to heights of 40 feet, towering over the masts like liquid mountains. The ship drops into the troughs between the waves, slamming into the bottom with a force that vibrates through your bones. The timbers groan and shriek under the pressure. You must tie yourself to the mast to avoid being swept into the foaming black water. The dark night is filled with the sound of breaking wood. Will the hull fracture beneath you? Below the waterline, a silent army is destroying your ship. The warm tropical waters are home to Teredo navalis, the shipworm. These are not actually worms, but specialized clams with shell-like teeth. They land on the unprotected oak hull as microscopic larvae. They burrow inside the wood and begin to eat. They grow up to 2 feet long inside the planks, drilling perfectly straight tunnels along the grain of the wood. The outside of the ship looks completely normal. What is happening inside the wood? The wood is transformed into a hollow sponge. The structural strength of the caravel vanishes entirely. A ship that looks beautiful from the deck can collapse from a minor grounding or a heavy wave impact. Navigators like Christopher Columbus lost entire fleets to this invisible destruction. The very walls separating you from a 2-mile drop into the abyss are being devoured from the inside out. You are floating on a fragile shell of dust. How can you sleep knowing the floor is rotting away? If you survive the ocean, the storms, the worms, and the rot, you finally see land. A cheer goes up from the remaining crew. But land is not an automatic salvation. The coastlines are completely unknown. There are no lighthouses. There are no markers for hidden rocks. Many ships survived months on the open ocean only to wreck on a sandbar 50 yards from the shore. The waves pound the grounded ship into splinters, while you watch the dry land just out of reach. Is this the cruelest joke of all? You manage to swim to the beach. Your feet sink into the warm sand. But the new world is not an empty paradise waiting for your arrival. The local populations have lived here for thousands of years. They see a group of ragged, starving, and heavily armed strangers stepping off a demonic wooden monster. Conflict is almost instantaneous. Arrows rain down from the tree line. The steel armor you wear is heavy and hot in the tropical jungle. Can you defend yourself when you can barely stand? The greatest danger on land is invisible. Your European body is a walking petri dish of diseases. But the new land has its own microflora. You encounter strange fevers that cause your skin to turn yellow and your blood to vomit from your mouth. The mosquitoes carry malaria through the swampy lowlands. You have no immunity to these jungle pathogens. More men die of tropical illnesses in the first month on land than during the entire crossing of the sea. Did you escape the water just to die in the mud? Let us reframe this reality against the modern world. You look at a map today, and every line is clean and precise. You know exactly what lies on the other side of the ocean. You can call someone on the opposite side of the planet with the tap of your finger. The world has been tamed, measured, and lit by electricity. But this global network was paid for with the lives of thousands of forgotten teenagers who died in the dark holds of caravels. Their agony bought our certainty. The counterintuitive truth of human history is that progress is rarely driven by comfortable choices. The men who sailed in 1500 were often desperate, violent, and flawed. They were driven by a brutal system of exploitation and a hunger for wealth. Yet, within that harsh reality, they displayed an almost superhuman capacity to endure suffering. They pushed the boundaries of human knowledge by walking directly into the jaws of death. They showed us what the human animal can survive when there is no turning back. When you look at your own modern existence, you see a life surrounded by high walls of safety. You rarely face hunger, or total isolation, or the absolute silence of an unmapped world. But safety can become its own kind of prison. The early explorers remind us that the human mind is built to confront the unknown. True discovery requires you to leave the comfort of the harbor and face the risk of the storm. Will you stay where it is safe, or will you set sail into the dark? Let us examine the final moments of a ship that never made it home. The wood begins to split beneath the waterline as the pressure of the deep sea forces its way through the worm-eaten planks. The crew is too weak from scurvy to operate the heavy iron pumps. You stand on the tilted deck as the cold water rises around your ankles. The captain drops his useless astrolabe into the sea, recognizing that no one will ever know where they died. The ship slips beneath the surface without a sound, joining thousands of other wrecks at the bottom of the Atlantic. Their names are forgotten, their stories erased, and their bones scattered across the deep sand. Is this the ultimate reality of exploration? The legacy of these voyages is written in the very fabric of our modern global economy. The trade routes established by these early navigators connected continents that had been separated for thousands of years. The exchange of plants, animals, and ideas changed the diet and culture of every human being on the planet. But this connection was built on a foundation of unspeakable human suffering, exploitation, and destruction. We live in the house they built, but we must never forget the cost of the materials. When you look out at the ocean today, you do not see a blank space, but a monument to the endurance of the human spirit. What will your generation build on the frontiers of the future?